Rome thought it knew how morning tastes. The mild citrus of Mediterranean light drifting across Bernini colonnades. The mellow clang of St. Peter's bells dissolving into fresco-scented air. The daily choreography of clerics in black and nuns in white navigating selfie sticks on the Via della Conciliation. But dawn on Thursday, May 15th, 2025, discovered a new flavor, an aftertaste of trembling copper that nobody could name at first. Street vendors felt it in the steam rising off their espresso urns. Pigeons seemed to hesitate mid-flap, startled by wavelengths humans could not register. Somewhere in the Apostolic Palace, a centuries-old parquet plank issued a brittle sigh, as though it sensed history shifting beneath its lacquered skin. Inside that palace, Pope Leo XIV, 82, leonine eyebrows, a mathematician's stoop, tightened the white fascia around his waist and dismissed the valet who had tried to steady his shaking hands. Unseen cameras tracked none of this. The press office's schedule for the day remained blessedly dull. A courtesy call from the Swedish ambassador, a routine ad limina visit by bishops from Burkina Faso. Only two men on earth knew that at 8:57 a.m., the successor Peter would step into the narrow corridor, linking his study to the Sistine Chapel, and request an unscheduled audience with Cardinal Luis Antonio Tagle in the Room of Tears. A Swiss guard named Pfister, whose daughter was due that very weekend, happened to witness the Pope moving faster than protocol allows. Cassock him, flicking his ankles like lightning too polite to strike. When Pfister saluted, Leo's reply was a distracted nod. No verbal blessing, no fatherly pat on the shoulder. The guard later told Vatican investigators the Holy Father looked possessed by a hurry older than himself. 3 minutes later, Tagle arrived, brisk and apologetic. He had jogged from the Pontifical Council for Interreligious Dialogue, a folio of working papers clutched against his chest. He expected a procedural query, maybe instructions for next month's trip to Manila. Instead, he found Leo standing before a heavy oak armoire, its doors yawning like collapsed wings. Inside rested a small, dark box bound by a corroded iron chain and crowned by the chi rho. A note, scarcely more than a ribbon of parchment, hung from a sliver of wax. You'll know when it's time. Tagle registered a ripple in the air around the relic, sensed the space grow denser, as if every molecule had inched closer to its neighbor. He glanced at the fresco overhead, Christ giving keys to Peter, and felt suddenly unworthy of oxygen. In Tagle's recollections, the next seconds were strangely cinematic. The Pope's voice low and uncertain, describing a triad of identical dreams. Leo handing this box to Tagle, Tagle opening it, the scene ending in a brilliance that smashed sleep like glass. Cardinal Tagle touched the lid and later swore he heard something sigh, not metal nor wood. It sounded, he told Vatican psychiatrist Dr. Adriana Borghetti, like millennia loosening their belt. Warmth leapt into his fingers. He unhooked the clasp and unfolded ancient linen, more air than fabric, revealing a stone so black it seemed to devour ambient light. For a suspended heartbeat, nothing happened. Then a shaft of Sistine filtered radiance kissed the stone's surface, and letters appeared inside it. Liquid gold script afloat under volcanic glass. The characters flickered, resolved into three shapes Tagle could not read, then vanished the instant he gasped. The silence that followed felt incandescent. The rest of Thursday unspooled like a thriller scribbled by competing auteurs. Tagle returned to his modest apartment at Domus Sancti Marthi and locked the stone in his desk, half believing daylight would steal its wonder. Yet at 3:33 a.m., a time Tagle would soon come to dread and crave, the drawer blinked open in a bloom of pale luminescence. The stone pulsed gently, 3 slow heartbeats of amber. Next to it lay a new parchment scrap, fibers wet as though kissed by dew, Nemensum nunnis ignotum. His name is not unknown. When Tagle reached for it, the ink twitched as if still deciding which century it belonged to. By breakfast, the cardinal's rational mind had mobilized an investigative protocol familiar from his seminary days. Rule out pranks, delirium, psychosis. He called Father Henri Marshall, a Jesuit philologist who approached miracles the way locksmiths approach jam tumblers: methodical, cynical, necessary. Marshall peered at the stone under lab lights, adjusted the focus on his magnifier, and nearly dropped his tweezers. The letters inside were Palea Hebrew. He whispered, the tetragrammaton itself, but rendered in a flourish unheard of since desert scrolls turned to dust. Script that floats inside a crystalline matrix, he muttered, voice torn between terror and thrill. This is either divine or diabolical. There is no third road. As Roman noon rang out, a second alarm arrived. Sister Elsbieta in Malta reported her bronze crucifix warming, then flickering with the same 3 glyphs. She had been praying the sorrowful mysteries. The heat scalded her palms, yet left no burn. Pope Leo listened to her voicemail twice, pupils shrinking as though facing Arctic sun. Convergence, he thought. Confluence. Choir lofts in his brain began tuning to keys long, unfashionable. That night, Tagle prayed before an unlit candle. At 3:33 a.m., the stone shimmered awake, numbers glowing like embers. 3.3. A phrase poured from his mouth. The hour of the name has returned. The floor beneath his prie-dieu issued a tremor, subtle as breath against skin, strong enough that a dusting of plaster drifted from a corner of the ceiling, freckling his breviary. The next morning, under pre-dawn bruises of sky, he carried the stone to a tiny side chapel reserved for papal retreat. Alone, he placed it on the altar and whispered for wisdom. Light bent in ways optics textbooks disdain. A crucifix shadow tip-toed down the wall until it lay perfectly over the stone, at which moment the oval blazed topaz. Tagle's lungs stung as if inhaling ancient incense. He staggered to the sacristy and vomited tears. At roughly the same hour in the bowels of the secret archives, Monsignor Aldo Ferretti, insomnia mad and dewed with sweat, rummaged through a box marked indicious, unverified 1878-1910. He slit an envelope bearing the crest of Leo XIII. Inside slept a note, non apparator Nisius Santo, do not open except by a holy one, followed by a penciled footnote. He will know it by the name. Ferretti phoned the Apostolic Palace. The line crackled like burning olive wood. When Tagle presented the stone to Pope Leo that afternoon, the pontiff witnessed a phantom hand, sooty silhouette, no arm, no wrist, settle over the oval. The Pope extended trembling fingers. The instant skin met mineral, he felt a name thunder through his bloodstream. A name he recognized as his own truest title, stripped of baptismal additives and Roman numerals. He withdrew, eyes threaded with tears. It sees souls, Tagle murmured. It recognizes. And then, 2 nights later, the stone was gone. In its velvet recess lay only the linen, cool and inert, except for one seasonal miracle, raised fibers spelling an imperative. You have seen, now you must carry. A slip of parchment appeared on the Pope's kneeler. Do not seek the stone, it is now within him. No courier admitted delivery. No CCTV caught a shadow. Tagle felt a faint warmth radiating from his sternum. His doctors would later scan his torso, find no foreign mass, but note inexplicable bursts of electromagnetic flux around his diaphragm. What followed rewired Vatican routine, the way a meteor rewires a moonlit field. At Mass, Tagle sensed the consecrated host flutter, beating thrice before settling into dough again. In confessionals, penitents swore the cardinal's voice doubled, as if an octave above whispered in tandem. Night guards idling near St. Peter's tomb spotted new carvings, a vestigial 3.3, undetectable at dawn. An emergency synod convened under vows of secrecy. They reviewed centuries of purported living icons, St. Francis's stigmata, Padre Pio's bilocation, Catherine of Siena's invisible wounds, but none involved becoming the name itself. One elderly cardinal, pale as parchment, suggested the book of Revelation's prophecy of a new name written upon the faithful. If he speaks one syllable not of God, warned Cardinal Kweku of Ghana, Its echo may rearrange continents. Language soon rebelled. Tagle found himself lapsing into phonemes unknown to any linguist, yet pregnant with meaning. He understood them, felt them ripple through glands and tendons like luminous sap. In Ethiopia, a monk watching a live stream of Tagle's Mass saw the Christ Pancrator icon flicker, eyes shifting from mosaic serenity to living sorrow. His psalter afterward bore an impression, 3.3 in dust that refused to smudge. The linen kept writing. "He is near," it embroidered one dawn. Hours later, those words vanished. That night, a hollow knock rapped beneath Tagle's private altar. 3 taps, pause, 3 taps, a Morse code for the devout. In Oaxaca, a parish priest lifted the host and felt heat pull sweat from his pores. The wafer glowed until he whispered amen. Audio engineers reversing Tagle's homily captured a stretched syllable that seemed to spiral through 6 dimensions before settling into something like "Are you, are you, are you, A Filipino child recognized Tagle on TV, pointed, said he's singing inside. In Malta, a seminarian kneeling at adoration heard a voice, genderless, ageless, repeat a name, trying to remember itself. In Seoul, a 6-year-old dreamed a man in scarlet clutching a breathing stone studded with 3s. She woke to find tiny scorch marks on her dresser. 3.33. By early June, journalists sniffed smoke. Reuters Vaticanista Elena Moretti filed a cryptic tweet about white cassock panic. The Holy See press office offered only frozen smiles. Hacktivists leaked a partial memo from the Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith referencing a vessel of proto-linguistic resonance. Conspiracy for un mode. Some claimed CERN had cracked open an interdimensional vowel. Others blamed rogue AI. A Texas televangelist raised $4.2 million promising to defeat the papal sound demon with 24-hour praise streams. Meanwhile, Tagle endured symptoms both mystic and mundane. Bursts of fragrance, myrrh one moment, wet cedar the next, bleeding from his pores, a low hum audible only to dogs, shards of unfamiliar memories flooding his dreams, a hand chiseling limestone in Herod's temple, a woman at Jacob's well singing a cradle song in Aramaic. His confessor, Father Paolo Viscani, recommended magnesium for insomnia. Tagle thanked him, laughing like a man standing on the moon told to try knee bends for weightlessness. On June 18th, linen flashed. Make the name known. The Pope ordered his driver to fetch Tagle. Under Michelangelo's Last Judgment, they discussed the disquieting instruction. The silence is ending, Leo reiterated, voice stripped of papal baritone. But how loud may we allow the new sound to get? Tagle stared at Christ's extended arm in the fresco, the musculature vibrating with brushstrokes older than his country's constitution. He pictured sound tearing fresco from masonry. That night, heat gathered behind Tagle's ribcage. At 3:33 a.m., 3 pulsing shapes danced in the candle on his desk. One vertical, one horizontal, one circular, like punctuation marks from alphabets unborn. The cardinal whispered, "You're writing again, but through me." An olive petal fell onto his open breviary. No branches grew within half a kilometer. On June 22nd, Pope Leo uncovered a lost 17th century text predicting a voice to come after the era of divine reticence. He rang the cardinal. "Pack," he said. "Jerusalem." Tagle didn't argue. The linen had begun to hum, faint as bee wings, every time he faced east. He traveled incognito, just another cleric loitering in Tel Aviv's arrivals hall, though a bored customs agent later claimed Tagle's passport photo shimmered like hologram static. He rented no car. His feet navigated old city cobblestones by magnetism. At dusk, he stood before a neglected chapel near Gethsemane. Inside, dusty pews sagged under spiderweb quilts. Tagle's shadow lengthened across the apse, arms outstretched without his bidding, until fingers brushed peeling plaster. 3 Hebrew letters, Yod He Vav, surfaced, glowing citron, then dimmed. An Aramaic voice padded across centuries. He was always here. You had to arrive. The linen, warm as puppy fur, displayed fresh calligraphy. Speak it where it has never been spoken. Tagle followed invisible breadcrumbs through a tangle of alleyways to a courtyard, garden, no guidebook records, stone benches, fig tree leaning drunk against moonlight, a limestone slab half sunk in moss. Fireflies orbited as if waiting for a cue. Tagle placed the linen on the stone, inhaled dust and jasmine, and parted his lips. What issued cannot be transcribed. To hearers it would register as 3 syllables, yet each syllable contained orchestra, thunderhead, lullaby, newborn gasp. Instruments still unbuilt seemed to vibrate in sympathetic resonance. A cold gust yanked fronds from the fig tree. The ground jolted, not earthquake but a release, like a massive muscle unclenching underground. The linen scorched itself, 3 diagonal slashes, black as eclipse. Contact triggered vision. He stood on Galilean shoreline. Water glimmered with internal starlight. A figure approached. No beard, no outline. Only light so densely packed it ached to gaze upon. The figure repeated the name. The cosmos folded inside its echo and offered one directive. Now say it for them. When Tagle's eyes reopened, the courtyard felt vacuum quiet. The linen cooled in his grip, forever branded. On the desk of Pope Leo, a fax machine spat out a grainy photo of the cloth with the handwritten words he had spoken. Cameras captured Leo clutching the printout, shoulders convulsing like sails in a gale. He whispered to the Christ of the fisherman's ring, "Then the silence is truly ending." From there, history accelerated. A nun comatose since February sat bolt upright in Calabria, chanting the name thrice before slipping back into sleep, vitals suddenly normal. LOI 045, a defunct communications satellite, transmitted 3 seconds of unallocated frequency containing the inverted syllable before exploding in low Earth orbit. Nurses in Kyoto watched a statue of Canon Weepmer that etched the glyph into the porcelain surface. Social media erupted with hashtag nameless word, hashtag 3.3, and hashtag Tagle effect, each thread unfurling conspiracy bricolage. Vatican black ops, extraterrestrial Morse, psychological warfare. Yale linguist Dr. Ray Eun Kim ran Tagle's televised homily through spectrum analysis and found harmonic overtones corresponding to prime intervals, frequencies planet formation models predict in protoplanetary disks. "It's as if that sound is what gravity would chant if given lungs," she tweeted, then locked her account. Tagle returned to Rome beneath a summer storm. Swiss guards hustled him through hidden corridors while lightning combed the skyline like paparazzi flash. He watched himself in gilt mirrors, face gaunt, eyes phosphorescent. Linen now rested inside a lead-lined portfolio. Still it pulsed like a slow, beating heart. Tagle feared what would happen if he placed it near a monstrance. Would sacred vessels melt or merely remember being? Or, on July 1st, 2025, St. Peter's Square swelled past capacity on rumor alone. No pontifical announcement had been made, yet pilgrims arrived clutching transistor radios, rosaries, protest placards, even Geiger counters. Drones buzzed overhead, unlicensed. Security murmured about crowd crush. The Pope chose simplicity, a regular Sunday Angelus broadcast, but he dispatched Tagle to proclaim the gospel. Under glacial cloud cover, Tagle read John 17, Christ's prayer of unveiling the Father's name. He sensed the moment snag in the weave of time, corks pausing mid-tremble. Instead of closing the book, he leaned forward. Had microphones a bloodstream, they would have frozen. 3 syllables threaded from his throat, softer than lullaby yet deeper than whale call. For 12 full seconds, the square became a vacuum chamber. Babies hushed in slings. Pigeons pinwheeled and hovered, wings stilled as if the air itself held them aloft. Elderly skeptics burst into ragged sobs. Skeptical journalists felt teeth vibrate. One paraplegic tourist from Krakow registered phantom tingling in his leg for the first time in 20 years. The Vatican's seismograph detected no tremor, yet bouquets in the basilica rippled, petals trembling like struck cymbals. Cardinal Luis listening from a sickbed in Agbogblashi, felt his pulse align to a triple rhythm. Boom, pause, boom. Boom, pause, boom. Across the Atlantic, the New York Stock Exchange halted trading for 4 bewildering seconds when algorithmic mics recorded an unknown acoustic pattern, flagged as potential cyber attack. Ocean buoys in the Pacific recorded micro-pressure variations synchronous with Tagle's utterance. No tsunami ensued. Instead, migrating blue whales adjusted their low-frequency songs to match the unheard note. Behind the ornate altar, Pope Leo wiped tears. In the sacristy, he found Tagle shaking, face flushed with mild fever. He draped a stole around the younger man's shoulders, as if shielding him from cosmic draft. "What changed?" the Pope asked, voice a papery rasp. "Nothing," Tagle replied, smiling through vertigo. Or rather, everything remembered what it always was. A discreet directive circulated that night. Gather every account of unoriginated syllables. Preserve without interpretation. The linen, its mission complete, was sealed inside plain cedar by nuns of the Contemplative Order of Loreto. Not even cardinals know which convent holds it. Some rumors place it in a Palestinian desert cave, others in a refrigeration unit beneath Castel Gandolfo. A single stipulation: should the cloth ever grow warm again, the world must prepare for second utterance. Meanwhile, scientific panels splintered. Nobel laureate chemists argued about room temperature, phonon luminescence. Quantum theologians posited a vowel of creation, a primal resonance collapsed by original sin, now re-emergent. Silicon Valley announced startups dedicated to name tech, acoustic therapies, encryption keys derived from Tagle's spectral signature. Markets boomed, bubbles swelled. The papal nuncio to India cautioned Anusa about using the word as a radio beacon to search for extraterrestrial intelligence. Tagle retreated from limelight, citing spiritual exhaustion. Yet the name traveled without him, needing only memory to propagate. Reports surfaced of Appalachian Pentecostals humming the tune in snake-handling rituals. A Berlin nightclub DJ layered crowd recordings into a techno anthem, only to watch ravers fall silent mid-beat, tears streaking neon paint. Tibetan monks whispered they could taste the syllables: salt, light, something else beyond the periodic table. Not all reactions were reverent. The Atheist Alliance sued Italian broadcasters for non-consensual religious exposure. Hackers released deepfake videos of Tagle speaking the word backward, claiming it induced euphoria akin to MDMA. A fringe doomsday cult in Nevada built a stone labyrinth etched with 3.3, predicted Yellowstone would erupt when the syllable reached critical mass. Yellowstone slept. Through it all, Tagle corresponded clandestinely with linguists, neurologists, victims of war. He read letters from hospice patients who'd heard the word in morphine dreams and felt corridors of terror unclog, leaving a kind of lavender blue peace. He wept over a video of a Gaza school where Muslim, Christian, and secular children chanted the melody together, no teacher having taught them. One stormy Roman night, the cardinal stood alone in the Vatican gardens, cicadas thrumming. He whispered the name once, not aloud, but inward, testing whether brain alone could broadcast. Lights across the city flickered, and he felt a tremor beneath his feet, as if roots rearranged themselves to a holier geometry. A gardener later reported rose blossoms opening at 2 a.m., 12 hours off circadian schedule. Pope Leo, growing frail, summoned Tagle for a final private exchange. The pontiff admitted nightmares, visions of the name exploited as anthem for conquest. "Imagine armies chanting the syllables before drone sorties," he lamented. Tagle countered. "The word resists violence. It unthreads hostility." Leo nodded, yet caution iced his gaze. He ordered a theological commission, polyglot, interfaith, half-female, to draft a charter governing ethical invocation of the name. "We must be midwives," he said, "not marketing agents." By Advent, neuroscientists at Oxford unveiled fMRI data showing the word activates empathy circuits even in psychopaths, an outcome previously deemed neurologically improbable. Pharmaceutical giants sensed threat. Why sell SSRI prescriptions if a three-note hum can dissolve despair? Stockholders fretted. The World Health Organization convened emergency talks on unregulated spiritual therapy. Meanwhile, in Icelandic fields, auroras began to pulse in triple staccato, satellites capturing green curtains folding precisely at intervals of 3.3 seconds. Tagle's body changed subtly. Hair shot through with silver, fingernails displaying micro-etchings like grooves on vinyl. Doctors found no pathology, only elevated bio-photon emissions from his epidermis, faint but measurable. The cardinal joked he could save Vatican City on electric costs if they wired him correctly. Humor thinly veiled terror. The name refused to stay ecclesiastical property. In February 2026, a blind jazz trumpeter in New Orleans improvised a riff that, when slowed 10 times, matched Tagle's original sonogram. Critics hailed it as post-harmonic gospel. The musician shrugged. Just blew what the night air gave me, man. Across the world, 8-year-old twins in Lagos sketched contiguous spirals on a chalkboard until teachers noticed the pattern spelled the paleo letters of the tetragrammaton in negative space. During Lent, Tagle re-encountered the linen. The nuns allowed a brief, gloved visitation. Cloth lay inert, yet as Tagle leaned near, the cedar box exhaled a warmth equal to body temperature. He whispered the name once, feather soft. The cloth shivered. Not glow, not inscription, merely a tremor like muscle resettling. Tagle understood. It still listened. Easter season exploded with cross-cultural astonishments. Spotify analytics flagged an unidentifiable overlay across millions of unrelated tracks at timestamp 333. 3 faint harmonics matching Tagle's utterance. Users described gooseflesh, sudden nostalgia for mornings never lived. A Navajo shepherdess in the Four Corners dreamed of corn pollen swirling into Hebrew letters. She woke to find the glyphs pressed into the desert sand, 20 meters across. By summer 2026, UNESCO deliberated whether the name should be designated intangible world heritage. Cuba's parliament proposed broadcasting the syllable across sugarcane fields to boost yield. A plan stalled when cane cutters reported ecstatic trances. At MIT, quantum researchers published phonons, logos, and the ontological vibration, positing that the word could align qubits without decoherence. Peer reviewers laughed, then listened to the sound file, then requested more data. Tagle, now 68, aged a decade in months, yet radiated a calm amplitude unchartable on heart monitors. He avoided microphones, but occasionally visited undergrads at Gregorian University. In one off-record lecture, he likened the word to a cosmic recall notice. Creation has been driving with a faulty steering column, he said. The name wakes the factory warning. Students posted fragments online. The Vatican Copyright Office issued takedown requests, inadvertently amplifying the leak. Plotlines thickened. Hackers tried embedding the syllable into ransomware. A biotech firm tested its effect on tumor cell apoptosis. Elon Musk joked about installing speakers on Mars rovers. The Pope's Commission released a charter. The name belongs to no nation, religion, or patent schema. It must not be weaponized. It must never be performed for profit. Compliance was voluntary. On December 12, 2026, Tagle stood on the balcony of San Maria in Trastevere for an interfaith vigil. Muslims, Hindus, Buddhists, atheists, skeptics. Rain drummed cobblestones like billions of fingertips. At precisely 3:33 a.m., the clouds parted. Moonlight washed the crowd. No script, no signal, yet a wave of sound rippled from throats. Some hummed, others sighed, a few merely mouthed, but every mouth synced to the triple cadence of the name. Rain paused mid-fall, droplets hanging like glass beads. Witnesses swear stars brightened. The morning after, Vatican meteorologists reported anomalies. They called them freeze frames, but offered no mechanism. Politicians downplayed mass hysteria. Skeptics argued audiosuggestion. Yet paramedics logged 0 medical emergencies among 10,000 umbrellas, an impossibility given statistical averages. Pope Leo passed away quietly on Epiphany 2027, his last words whispered in the cadence of the name. White smoke rose again. The conclave elected Jorge Alvarez of Uruguay, taking the name Pope John Ziv, who pledged transparency on the unfolding resonance. His first encyclical, Vox Oriens, affirmed the words universality and cautioned that its hijacking would shred the tapestry of conscience. Governments bristled at ecclesial leadership of a cosmic asset. The UN floated an oversight council. Negotiations stalled over veto rights. Within Tagle, a new season dawned. He slept deeper, dreamt of orchards pruned by tongues of light, and awoke each dawn with small bruises shaped like exclamation points. Doctors found no blood vessel damage. Energy spiked when he prayed in silence. He concluded the word's work inside him was incremental, like software patches deployed under the hood. By 2028, researchers confirmed a global drop in homicide rates by 3.3%. No viable socioeconomic cause identified. Suicide hotlines reported callers referencing an anchor syllable that talked them down. Polar ice acousticians discovered seismic groans of calving glaciers now pulsed in the triple rhythm, as though planet itself practiced the name. Still, tension stewed. Black market VR headsets offered seraphic high by looping illegal edits of the word at 432 Hz. Sales spiked. So did psychotic breaks. Neo-Gnostic cults claimed exclusive decoding rights. Extremist factions branded the word the devil's black mask, urged holy war. In Tehran, Tagle's sound file was banned. Bootleg CDs sold for fortunes. The cardinal wondered whether releasing the word had been kindness or detonation. One twilight, he sat on Vatican rooftop tiles, horizon the color of almond flesh. He whispered the syllable once more, this time directed inward, to marrow, to mitochondria. He felt bones humming, muscles resetting posture, heart finding a new baseline. Then silence, pregnant, benevolent. Birds resumed. The name, he realized, adapts to the vessel's contour, never overflows unless poured for others. The world's delirium came not from the word, but from humanity's chronic habit of bottling lightning for resale. And so life entered an age quietly labeled resonance. Children born after 2025 often hummed a triple rhythm before speaking their mother tongue. Concert halls installed sensors to prevent accidental broadcasts. Satellite technicians learned to filter the frequency lest it short transponders. Meanwhile, common folk found micro-reverence in traffic lights blinking 333, in the hush between elevator dings, in the way three waves sometimes break in perfect cadence along a beach. As the 10th anniversary approached, Tagle drafted a letter, part confession, part lullaby, to be released posthumously. If you read this, he began, the word has already walked past your door. You need not chase it. Breathe, and you will feel it return, corridor by corridor, to the room where your first heartbeat began. He sealed the envelope with red wax, pressed his ring, and tucked it beneath a statue of the virgin undoer of knots. Whether humankind will nurture the echo or weaponize its pitchfork harmonics remains the cliffhanger. Tagle knows cliffhangers are mercy, time granted for characters to choose. On quiet nights, Rome still wears its lavender dusk like an antique stole. Traffic mutters, bells gossip, but if you stand in Bernini's colonnade at 3:33 a.m., especially on a Thursday, you might hear a slight inhalation beneath the city's audible range, as though marble itself were preparing to speak. Some call it wind, others future, but those who remember the morning the bells tasted of copper recognize the pause between syllables and know the next breath will rhyme with the one that launched creation.